Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Welcome to Accelerated Health with Sara Banta. I'm a busy wife, mom of 3, and an NA&P certified supplement professional. But that's not all. I'm also the founder of the multi-award-winning Accelerated Health Products, a brand offering innovative, natural, scalar-enhanced supplements to optimize your health. And this podcast is not just a source of information. It's a community. We're all here to learn and grow on our health journeys, regardless of where we're starting. And this podcast is the springboard to learning. And the free group coaching on Telegram is where we continue learning together. You can ask your questions. I post tips and tools to deepen your health and to keep you motivated in moving forward on this journey. So here's what you can expect. New episodes every Monday and Wednesday with in-depth health discussions and expert guests, hot topic issues that are in the news every Friday, and then, of course, followed with the free health group coaching on Telegram. The details can be found on my website at SaraBantaHealth.com. Just check it out there. And have you thought about detoxing? Well, I've created over 10 unique, easy detox cleanses designed so that you feel good day one. No hangover, no detox flu symptoms. From the most simple of just getting you pooping with the colon cleanse to the parasite cleanse or the candida cleanse or the kidney cleanse or the bladder infection cleanse, or the big one, the accelerated diet cleanse that includes the liver flush cleanse. There's one there right for you. And you can take the detox quiz on my website to find which one that is. And if you're not ready for a detox, but you want to start with some supplements, just complete the health goals form for your free supplement protocol done just from me for you. And just by taking a few steps forward with your health, you will change your life. And the difference between other programs is I'm here to help you every step of the way. I am super excited today to have our guest, Ed Harrold. He's a renowned expert in breathwork and mindfulness. He's dedicating to help individuals unlock their full potential through the power of conscious breathing, something that we take for granted. Welcome. How are you, Ed?
Thanks for having me, Sarah. Excited to be here.
Well, you know, I went to yoga this morning, and as I was doing my yoga breathing, and they're so intentional about telling you how to breathe. And when I used to do yoga, I just think, oh God, can we just get to the work now, please? Because this is boring. I know how to breathe. But we talk about food and diet and exercise and sleep, but we take for granted this thing that we do every second, every minute of every hour of our day, and that's called breathing. But it's so powerful. So I'm super excited to get into the topic. So why don't we start with your journey? Why did you become interested in something so simple as breath?
Well, it kind of happened by accident. I was a youngster and involved in all sorts of sports in the 70s, football, baseball, basketball, surfing, swimming, rowing. And, you know, over time, my body couldn't put up with the rigors of training, and eventually it broke. And I became very tight emotionally and tight mentally, and just struggled being a good young man, a good son, a good father, a good brother. And through a series of events, I met a beautiful woman who was involved in bodybuilding, but she also had a vast background in yoga. And I didn't even know what yoga was. I would see her move her body. I'm like, what is that? And I was like, I've never seen anything like it. Then I, of course, tried it, and I couldn't do it. And I was immediately challenged to the fact that I couldn't do something. And my body was extremely rigid. My mind was just as rigid. And then I got involved in healing work and getting involved in professional yoga teacher trainings. And I picked the right style of yoga, which was very breath-based. And it was gentle on the body rather than forcing everything through the body. And that was great for me because I was all about ego and attached to the mirror and everything that comes with being, you know, a young man on his 20s and 30s, staying out at night. So getting in touch with my body, moving it slower, using sensitivity and feeling as my new superpower, and using the breath as a way of creating heat in my body and detoxification in my body for it to open at a safe pace, for my mind to open at a safe pace. And that's led to deeper states of transcendence and transformation and really opening up to the full potential that life has to offer someone in their 30s.
It's amazing. We take it for granted. And I'm laughing as you're talking because, as you know, I have 3 children. All of them were rowers. I was a rower in high school. Did anyone ever talk about the importance of stretching or breathing or getting in tune with your body? No, you're just a machine and you're supposed to pull on a stick, as my husband calls it.
Yeah.
Get the boat to moving faster. But you watch my girls stretch and they're like, every ache and pain. And the breath is so powerful. It's not just powerful for the athlete. It's powerful for stress management. It's powerful for sleep. It's powerful for digestion. And most of our listeners, Ed, are women over 40. So they're not the athletes that, like my younger kids, but they're just trying to hold on. They've got hormones that are out of whack. We've got the spike protein that has inhibited our lung function. It has inhibited our heart health. It's brought more depression and anxiety. I mean, this season is full of stress, and people are having a hard time even just breathing, and they feel that shallow breath. So I want to start with just the basics of breathing, understanding the mechanics of respiration.
Yeah, so we were all born nasal breathers. Once we come out of our mother, our nostrils are cleared of mucus, phlegm, and fat, and the DNA of our body is designed for us to breathe through our nostrils 99% of the time. And when we're not, and we have a cold or our sinuses are clogged, or we're hunting, getting food, or not becoming food, then mouth breathing is appropriate to trigger the sympathetic nerve receptors at the top of our lungs and trigger the HPA axis in our brain for us to take emergency procedures that sometimes life requires. But we are living in a modern world where we're pretty safe. We can get our food at the store. Every animal on earth is breathing through its nose its entire life, unless it's hunting or being hunted. The cheetah, the fastest animal on earth, runs 80 miles an hour breathing through its nose. It has a huge open airway. And we have the same potential if we choose to take a little look inside and see what our respiration is bringing to us. So step one is folks being aware that body alignment, body posture plays a huge role in the kind of the how we move oxygen and alkalinity through the soles of our feet to the crown of our head. The primary muscle of inhale is something called your thoracic diaphragm muscle, and it kind of mediates pressure between the chest cage and the abdominal region of the body. And when we inhale through the nose, some amazing things happen with this diaphragm muscle. It vertically presses down towards the pelvic floor and straightens our spine and gives us really great posture. And the brain and the learning centers of the brain, the executive centers of the brain, love seeing a straight spine. So strengthening this muscle's ability to press down and straighten the spine gives us great alignment anatomy. Step two is, as this diaphragm presses down, it stimulates this enteric nervous system, which is a smaller branch of our autonomic nervous system, where 90% of our serotonin and 50% of our dopamine is being made. So as we strengthen this muscle pressing down, we're massaging this minor nervous system, which is so needed in 2024 in regard to emotional self-resiliency, it's emotional self-awareness, and then controlling the mind. So the mind doesn't control us based on who we were 20 years ago. So as we draw this air down and we push this energy down, we get grounded in our legs, we're strong in our hips, and we begin to stimulate the lower lobes of our lungs. And the lower lobes of our lungs are very, very special places. They're a physiology which is so important to both the micro and the macro of survival of the species. All the nerve endings here in the lower lobes of the lungs are filled with parasympathetic, oxygen-rich, hemoglobin-rich nerve endings, and hemoglobin is what oxygen binds to and can circulate through our body freely and keep us young and produce longevity. So just getting that diaphragm to go down and activate a straight spine, the enteric nervous system, the lower lobes of the lungs. And now you set in motion this other part of inhale, which is kind of like this north, south, east, and west contraction of our intercostals. And we want these intercostal muscles, these thin sheaths of muscles that are in between our ribs. We want them to become strong. And we want our ribs to become flexible. We want to get that swimmer's V, but we want to get it from the inside out, because our lungs are amazing, super amazing, but they're tissue. They're not muscle. So if you have weak inspiratory muscles and your ribs are rigid like steel beams, your lungs aren't going to have the strength for you to have the potential energy you're going to need to be neuroplastic in your brain to evolve your skill sets and update your software. So getting the inhale under control, get it down low and slow. And we think about the 4 organs of the upper abdomen, the liver, gallbladder, stomach, spleen, a lot of cancer in this area. And this can be back to shallow chest breathing or mouth breathing. You're not massaging and nurturing these organs the way they need to be to keep our digestion, elimination, and assimilation in a perfect clockwise cycle filled with rhythm as we go through our day. And we know the inhale is sympathetic in its offering. So it has a slight spike to our heart rate. There's a slight spike of adrenaline to it. And this is designed for arousal. So there's a relaxed arousal as we approach the opportunity of how we're going to perceive the present moment and take action. So if you can slow down your inhale just slightly and feel the details of the muscles you're using to produce this inspiratory moment in yourself, you can push back against the sympathetic switches and allow it to be relaxing and parasympathetic.
Wow. I don't know about any of you, but I literally am like listening to my body as I'm breathing. I just found myself sitting up straighter, feeling more grounded just as you're talking. It's amazing that we take this so for granted. There's breath strategies to increase awareness and to relax. So can you take us through an example of if we're coming into a test or a race or an important conversation, how to become more alert? What should that breathing look like? And then I want to go into, okay, we need to calm our nervous system down. We're stressed out. We need to just relax, get into that parasympathetic mode. What do we do? So both scenarios.
That's a great question. So first of all, when we're excited about a test and there's kind of this fear of the unknown, just know that the reason you're triggered is because you care. Okay, there's a mental, you're instilled mentally from your family, your friends, people that are around you, that you got to learn how to pay attention, and learning how to pay attention, then attention begins to pay you. So how do we get the brain to focus on what we want to control? So we talked a little bit about breathing and the physiological process of inhale. Well, guess what? The reason why we want to control the inhale is so we can control the direction our mind goes and we can kind of nudge it towards what we want. So if you're going to go take a test, number one, you don't need to breathe into your upper chest because you're not going to be eaten by a lion. You're safe. The fear is just in your head and it's probably unfounded to begin with. So if you can just breathe low and slow into the mid chest and down, and you don't even need to get the sympathetic nerve endings because you're already stressed out about it, might not work out. So just providing the physiology of a parasympathetic pushback and massaging your organs so your emotional state is flowing, it's not locked in what might have happened in the past or what might happen. So just at low and slow for most of us, it might be half an inhale, but don't worry, that's plenty of air. And then once your inhale is complete, hold the breath in for a 2 count. Now, I'm not recommending depriving the brain of oxygen, but what I am reminding you is when you consciously stop breathing, the hippocampus of your brain turns on and says, whoa, Ed must be serious about something. I'm going to pay attention. And when I stop breathing, the mind goes completely silent and it's blank. There's no words there. There's no pictures there. So this is an old part of the older brain, the old mammalian brain from millions of years ago, when there was threat and the body and the brain needed to evaluate the level of threat. the brain would take the breath away so there was complete silence so it could develop an appropriate strategy to deal with it. We're just updating this new software for 2024 and executing a perfect test. So inhale slowly, pause for 2.
Okay. And do you need to do that over and over again? Or is it just once?
I would say everybody's different based on, what happened the day before. How did you sleep? What did you eat? Did you study? Things like that, but I would say if you did it for a minute, what's going to happen is you're going to drop from the surface mind of unsteadiness to a deeper mind of knowing. And you're going to find a rhythm. And you're going to find a rhythm with your breath, which is going to be linked to the rhythm of your heart. And all of a sudden, something greater than you, from deeper inside you, is going to come out and start answering these questions in flow. And before you know it, it's going to be gone.
So you mentioned the hippocampus. Why don't you tell people what that organ's job is so that we can fully understand its relationship to our breathing?
So the hippocampus is a place for, say, folks after 15. That is a place where new awarenesses, new ideas, new concepts are introduced. So it's like that aha, I just learned something. And then this is sometimes called the executive learning center of the brain, the top of the brain. And then that'll go back into your cerebellum, which is your small brain, and it is stored as fact. Mm-hmm. So when you have a new awareness, now you want to soften into these new awarenesses. Forcing is great, but it only gets you so far. So if you can really just relax the muscles around your eyes, relax your cheekbones, relax the forebrain region and the bridge of the nose, this gives the eyes room to flow in the skeletal face. And you'll notice when your eyes are free that there's more creativity in your brain. Your brain will explore outside of your comfort zone intuitively, and you can start to pull downloads down that you might not see if your eyes are locked and you're tense in the eyes.
Well, I can tell you that if I'm stressed, my vision goes blurry. So there's that direct correlation. But I also know that my vision is connected to my liver health, which you mentioned the flow with your gallbladder, your liver, your stomach, your spleen. So how does this breath work affect your organs and digestion?
So we want to be in a place where we can receive the moment in a relaxed, open way and be flowing with it rather than flowing against it. So we all handle tension a little bit differently based on genetic factors and socioeconomic. It's a strange thing. But fundamentally, you want to be able to absorb the energy of your mitochondria through your cells and tissues in the most efficient way as possible. And we know that when we're tense, we're working way harder than we need to be. We're hypoxic somewhat, and we get this short, bumpy, jumpy breathing. This fires off the lower brain, the really old brain, the hypothalamus, the amygdala, all these things from a long time ago. And when they fire off, then we stop nurturing our organs. And all the energy is then sent out to the arms and legs to fight this imaginary intruder, but it's just a thought. It's a misperception. It's not real. So we need to be able to sit tall and let the spine do the work. We need to breathe slowly so that we're flowing with the energy of the day. We're flowing with our emotional content. We're flowing with our thought. And we begin to see that everything in our life is happening for our benefit if we can just relax in to about 90% of it.
And then you hear the term rest and digest, right? So when you're about to eat food, everyone prays or sits to appreciate what they're about to eat, to get their body in a relaxed state, that parasympathetic state. Is there some breath work that goes along with doing so before you actually eat a meal?
Yeah. So most folks that I work with, when I initially work with them, the first discovery we find is that the rest and digest is turned off. We're in a sympathetic overload, and that their expiratory muscles, their exhale muscles have become very weak and atrophied. They can't get the CO2 out. This triggers the brain into stress states. And then there's a whole host of things hormonally that happens in the body. So when you think about exhale, it's important to think about your rectus abdominis, your transverse abdominis, and your obliques. Every exhale is a mini sit-up. What happens is on the exhale, the thoracic diaphragm, which was so beautifully vertically pressing down, is now going to be evacuating the belly and pushing up into the lower lobes of the lungs, producing rest and digest through the parasympathetic nerve endings of the lower lobes of our lungs. As these muscles become more dynamic, they're going to flush these organs of acidity, mucus, phlegm, fat, anything that's impeding that organ's ability to do its job best, also with its neighbor organs. There's a part of the brain that when we're stressed resists exhaling. It thinks we have to hold on to every molecule of energy to fight off this intruder. And it resists exhale and it begins to pick up the inhale. So we're just kind of poisoning ourselves with higher levels of CO2 in the brain, and the amygdala goes nuts and our emotions are flowing all over the place. We lose our legs and we're just living in this ocean of debris in the skull. So how can we make these exhale muscles stronger? Well, we could obviously concentrate on making them stronger, but you could only do that when you're actually concentrating on it like you're doing a set. Now, one way you could do this organically would simply create more pressure for an exhale to occur. So if I inhale and hold my breath in a few seconds, that oxygen is going to swirl in the alveoli sacs of my lungs and create pressure. It's going to create more leverage. And this is going to give me a longer length, depth, and pace to my exhale, so that my exhale becomes longer than my inhale. So as long as your exhale is longer than your inhale in length, say you inhale for 3, exhale for 6, okay, you're setting in motion rest and digest. Number 2, your brain, your amygdala, hacks that and says, wow, he or she must be safe in this moment because it's a very long exhale. So we're trusting the environment. When the brain relaxes and trusts the environment in the head, then it naturally has the body burn fat, not store fat. And it'll start to come from the hardest areas to get first, rather than all the areas we traditionally get in our workout. So if you start to just work on some inhales with some holds and then ride that exhale to completion, you're going to start to lose inflammation and improve circulation in the areas of our body that are carrying the most debris right now. You're also going to stimulate something called your vagus nerve, which is like one of the really big nerves for rest and digest and longevity to the life of our cells. So, you know, the vagus nerve has little wires that go into every organ in our gastrointestinal tract except for our adrenal glands, because I mean, there's no need to relax if you're firing your adrenal glands. So as you begin to strengthen this exhale, you're going to have what's called a large or higher vagal tone, which is going to have a whole different spectrum in regard to your emotional, mental, physical, spiritual self. And then obviously, I want folks to exhale through their nose, not their mouth. If you think about it, the brain is the highest point we have against gravity. If the air is coming out through the mouth, we're not creating enough force to get the air to come through the brain and come out through the nose. So a lot of times you see people, you know, they're exercising and they're doing this mouth breathing. You look at their face, you can see that the brain is being deprived of oxygen. The brain is panicking. And when the brain panics, everything else is going to panic. So just training yourself to ride that exhale through your nose. Also, when you exhale through your mouth, you begin to set in motion dehydration. You'll get cotton mouth. You'll get dry in the throat. H2O, O2, CO2, 3 forms of oxygen that we can take advantage of. So when you're exhaling through your mouth, you're pushing back and you're maximizing your water and your fluidity through the tissues of your body, which is huge to endurance. And I don't know about you, but every day for me is an endurance event. It's a long day, and I need to set in motion, fat metabolism as fuel, and I need to stay hydrated with O2, CO2, and H2O. How I can get it, it's all free.
Okay, so to recap, if we want to go from a stress state and we just need to take a moment to breathe, inhale, hold it for a couple seconds, and make sure your exhale through the nose is longer than your inhale. Now,
people forget that you're exhaling as much oxygen as you're inhaling. CO2, 2 oxygen molecules. O2, 2 more. So wherever you can get oxygen, get it.
And so if we want to then get ready for the race or the task or whatever, do we want to make sure our inhale is bigger than our exhale? The opposite.
It's a great question. Complicated answer. Number one is, what time of day is this going to occur? So I would offer different breathing before noon, before solar noon, than I would to someone who's going to work out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or race at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We autonomically would always want to push back against the environment so that we remain in autonomic balance as the sun and the moon make its journey during a 24-hour cycle. We know that our right nostril on the inhale is sympathetic. We know that our left nostril on the inhale is parasympathetic. This is the original heating and air conditioning unit. And these nostrils are going to rotate 90 minutes every couple hours in regard to which one's going to be more efficient or deficient. And that's going to affect the 2 prefrontal lobes, because the right nostril is predominantly the left prefrontal lobe and the left nostril is predominantly the right frontal lobe. So depending on the sport, depending on the event, there might be times where you'd want to have, in the afternoon, you'd want to have a rapid, quick inhale. That is going to spike up your energy and bring it up properly before you bring your heart rate up to your event. In the morning, you're going to want to have a longer exhale. So you're setting in motion fat metabolism and pushing back against the high sun.
Oh my goodness. So do we actually want to breathe through one nostril at a time for different strategies?
We can. And that's a wonderful way. Here's a little tip. If anybody wakes up at 2 o'clock in the morning when the melatonin secretions stop, is a couple things that might have occurred. Number one is you were mouth breathing during the day, had a very stressful day, high heart rate, and you don't have enough serotonin on supply to go back to sleep after the melatonin secretion stop. Another thing is your blood sugar levels could be low. The amygdala senses low blood sugar. First thing it's going to do is spike cortisol to get you up. Another thing that could be happening is you're just going through a nasal cycle where your right nostril became more open than your left. You've brought up enough cortisol that simply brought you from delta up into theta. So no big deal. What we'd want to do here is just repattern how the energy is coming into the brain and the hormones and neurochemistry we're creating. So I know that the left nostril on the inhale is parasympathetic. I can cool my system and bring up serotonin immediately. I want to cut off the adrenaline, the cortisol channel, which I know is my right nostril. So what I coach folks on is, when you wake up in the middle of the night, don't panic. It's okay. Everything's fine. Tomorrow's going to be fine. Let's just take care of right now. What's right here? So you just take your thumb and you close off your right nostril. You inhale as slowly as you can up your left nostril. These cooling parasympathetic neurochemistries and hormones come up into the right lobe, and then you close off the left nostril and you exhale down the right to completion without strain, and then close off the right, open the left. Super slow, super low. Trace the energy into your right frontal lobe. When it's complete, close off the left, exhale right to completion. You need to squeeze out that little bit of waste in the last 20%. And then just do one more. Close off the right, open the left. Really slow inhale, parasympathetic response through the brain, and then close off, exhale right, but complete the exhale so you're maximizing the oxygen exchange of the CO2. And that'll get you back to sleep in 5 to 10 breaths.
Wow. If nothing else, just that is going to get people hooked, because so many people would love to sleep and they don't. So that is really helpful.
I taught that a few years ago on a podcast of Goldie Hawn. And then she was on another podcast and she said something like, every night when I wake up, I dream about Ed Harrold and what he told me to do. Oh my God, my phone lit up. Like it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Like Goldie Hawn sleeping with you.
Well, sleep it's the cornerstone of our health. It doesn't matter what you're eating, what you're doing, what you're exercising. If you're not sleeping, the wheels come off. And my Oura ring will tell me that. I was joking around the time change because literally I woke up and my Oura ring told me I ate too close to bedtime and it disrupted my sleep. And I had tried to adjust my eating window for the time period, but it didn't help because it still threw the circadian rhythms off. And I'm assuming that using your breath work is one of those tools that you can use to adjust your circadian rhythms to a new time zone, if you're traveling, if you're jet lagged. So what can you do when you are, say we're traveling to the East Coast, we're 3 hours ahead, we need to fall asleep earlier than we normally do?
Yeah, so fundamentally, the first thing we want to do when it comes to sleep is we want to take care of the first 5 minutes when we get up in the morning. That's really important in regard to how the rhythms of the body and our hormonal secretions are going to take place during the day. So I like to get up in the morning and I'll lie in my bed as soon as I wake up and I'll just take 5 inhales. And after each inhale, I'm going to hold my breath in for 10 to 20 seconds while I squeeze my core and kickstart my gastric fire. I fill my mind with gratitude and forgiveness for whatever's going to occur. I'm so excited that I get to come out into humanity and do what I love. So I'm setting in motion positive psychology after 4 or 5 pretty long breath holds, which is going to spike me up and then get me into the bathroom. Once I'm in the bathroom, I like to use the hot water and the steam of the water with like some squatting and forward bending and simple twisting to really open my body up, because my skin is my largest organ and it is what's breathing the most. And it also has clocks on it. It has circadian clocks on our skin and on our eyes. So with that, I'll come out of the bathroom and I want to get some early morning sunlight. So I'll get that early morning. I don't necessarily stare at the sun, but I'm just getting the ambient light of it. This is triggering my pineal gland to make melatonin, which will be stored for that when the sun goes down. My brain will have that melatonin on storage, and it'll start to release as soon as the bright light goes down. So the first few minutes of the day, I think, are like when you have a human machine, when you have this instrument, this communication device, it really works well when it's prepared. And I think we've kind of lost our way in regard to preparing the system to really optimize itself. And it might come by just feeling more without maybe acquiescing to the feeling if it's not a beautiful feeling. Just feel everything. Feel. And then thoughts are great. But the first 15, 20 minutes of the day are going to play a huge role in regard to how you sleep at night and keep that circadian clock no matter what time frame you're in. There's also great supplements that I'm sure that you're aware of and can change our clocks in a more seamless way so that there isn't that lag time.
Yeah, and I actually did a podcast on this because your thyroid wakes up in the morning. You're supposed to get a shot of cortisol in the morning. So using the acceleradine iodine in the morning, first thing when you wake up, that tells your body to wake up, and you feel it in your brain and your body and your ATP and the circulation. Everything starts getting going. And combining that with the accelerated thyroid, that is telling your thyroid to turn on. It's time to go do some special stuff. It lifts the brain fog. and it helps restore the health of the thyroid. But then at nighttime, using magnesium to start going to sleep or relaxing the body. You can also use things like Cognoblast, which helps with brain function, mental focus, gets you in out of that depression or anxiety that then can help you feel more in control of things like your breath. And these supplements are just tools. They're supplements, but you got to do the work with the breathing. And that's what I love about this topic is that it's free. We are so in control of this thing that we think is just automatic, and it's not. So for stress, I love it. And, I do find myself taking deeper breaths when I need to calm down. I know a lot of women, Ed, in the menopausal, age group, there's this increase in feeling of perceived stress because of hormonal imbalances, lack of sleep, because now our sleep's out of whack. We have the stressors of life, of finances. We've got the young kids, we've got the elderly parents, we've got all of these things going on in our life, and our plate is just stacking up. So what an amazing tool to use to calm down that perceived stress and the sympathetic, calm that down and get yourself into parasympathetic so that you can do the things you love to do, appreciate your loved ones, be in gratitude like you're talking about, and I love that you talked about what you do in those first couple breaths and being in gratitude and forgiveness for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Because that truly changes the course of your day, people. I cannot tell you the power of just those few thoughts, and those few moments. They will change the course of your day. And if you sit there and you wake up in a panic over what is going to maybe happen that you're so fearful of, number one, those things are going to happen because you're manifesting them. Right. But you're also setting yourself up for a day of not breathing, and a day of stress, a day of cortisol, a day of adrenal burnout and binge eating, and I can't get to my workout. And then your sleep cycle is going to be disrupted. So it's these domino effects of all of these, your aspects of life are either going to go in the right direction, feeding off of each other, or in the wrong direction, feeding off of each other. And breath is the center point. It truly is. So before we go on, I want to talk about the athletes because it's super important and interesting to me, as I've got 3 athletes, but also I consider myself an athlete, an elderly athlete in my own right. Is there anything else we're missing when it comes to managing stress and just overall optimizing life and cortisol, adrenal management with breath?
Yeah, boy, that's a loaded question. So whatever sport you're doing, even though it might only be 7 minutes, the training that you're doing is endurance based. So the race might be a sprint, but it's important to train with endurance protocols. There's a lot of science out there that says that inspiratory muscle failure causes endurance failure. Patterns of movement become impaired. We go from awake to asleep or unconscious with our eyes open. Our organs aren't firing the way they should. Our glands aren't firing the way they should. So strengthening the muscles of inhale and exhale are tool number 1. Sometimes called your inspiratory muscles, your expiratory muscles, inhale, exhale. Your respiratory muscles are going to decide what your heart rate is going to be, what your cardiovascular system is going to be able to do. Cardio being heartbeats, vascular meaning your ability to move waste along and bring oxygen to the parts of your body that need it in the heat of battle. So for me, it's always about training the respiratory system first, the cardiovascular system second, and the neuromusculoskeletal system third. Typical Western training is the exact opposite. You mindlessly move your body. Your brain says, whoa, well, look at this CO2 level shooting up. I better pump the heart rate up to move this stuff along. And then you'll do that for a couple minutes and go, well, now you better focus on your breathing. Get that heart rate back down. But by the time you've done that, you filled your body with all sorts of toxins, all sorts of cortisol, and you're not going to be able to get your heart rate down for 10 or 15 minutes. So the Western way of training is great, but frequency, intensity, duration has huge markers for us. But predominantly what I want to work on is training the respiratory system first, the heart second, the neuromusculoskeletal system third. And this is going to give you the ability to be more efficient in your patterns of movement. Don't lose your core when the race obviously is pushing you against levels outside of your comfort zone, and you remain in command of the thought process. You don't push pain away. Pain is trying to tell you something. So if you can catch the pain early enough and communicate with it, it's a master teacher. You just have to let it in a little deeper and then begin to control the pain, which is actually, I'm controlling my fear that it might not work out. So my thing is control the breath, control your heart rate. This is going to give you the ability to control your mind and body against the environment that you're moving against, no matter what sport you're in.
Okay, so what does that look like?
So it looks like, number one, you warm up the breathing first. So if you're on a nerve, coach says go row 2,500 meters, get warmed up, and then we're going to go row hard. Well, during that 2,500 meters, I'm going to do all sorts of different breath control protocols on a minute or on a 250 or somewhere. So the same way your coach is going to give you intervals like 10 300s, we're going to put a breath control sequence in front of the 300 in the training so that you're actually almost out of breath before you begin the 300. Then when you go race and you haven't taken your breath away from your physiological, psychological system before you row hard, your body's like, oh my God, this is so easy. I'm used to being out of breath before I actually row hard. But we're doing it in a way where we're creating it from our organs rather than creating heat and lactic acid from the muscles, bones, and joints, which over time can break. So learning how to create heat from here rather than heat through here, you become superhuman.
Okay, so you do that before your workout. Now, what about during the race or during the long training? Are you at all using mouth breathing? Are you in control of your breath in a rhythmic manner, or are you just letting your body do what it normally does?
So in the beginning, I'm always controlling my breath because I want to be able to control my pattern of movement. I want to have strong relationship with my diaphragm. I want to be able to control my mind, what I perceive is going on. So there's some dashboards, there's some gauges in my head that I'm always looking at. Number one is, what is the length, depth, and pace of my inhale and exhale? That's going to tell me, number one, what my heart rate is. Number two, whether I'm burning fat or sugar. And number three, it's telling me, are my patterns of movement efficient or inefficient? So when you think about, you always want to exhale longer than your inhale. Okay, that's going to trigger just all sorts of relaxation, neurochemistry, hormonal secretions that are going to support longevity and endurance. Now, your body's going to go through obvious progressions as you go deeper into the flame. And at times, rather than saying to yourself, I'm going to breathe slow through my nose, you're not going to be able to do it. So what do you do there? You got all this CO2 in your head. Your brain's deprived of oxygen. What do you do there? Then you take 2 or 3 quick rounds through your nose, like. So that quick inhale steadies the brain. The quick exhale gets the high level of CO2 out. And then I go back to see if I can slow down my regular diaphragmatic breathing. If that doesn't work, I can do 2 quick inhales and then exhale. So I have ways that I can push back on the sympathetic system, bring parasympathetic qualities to the fire, see if I can spread the fire around a little bit, and then maybe I can slow down the breath again. Now, if I can't do that and I have to exhale through my mouth, okay, I'm going to exhale through my mouth. What's the best way to do that? So the worst thing you can do is exhale shallow through your mouth. You're going to want to exhale as slowly as you can to completion through your mouth and try to reset the system that way. Slower mouth exhale. See if that can get you back to a nostril exhale. If it can't, try some faster mouth exhales just for like 3 to 5 seconds and see if that resets the system. If that doesn't work, then you're going to go to your mouth on your inhale. And then what you're going to do there is a slower mouth inhale, not a hyperventilation. Try to get the inhale down to here, not up here. This is the problem. And then worst comes to worst, it's a fast mouth inhale, fast mouth exhale, shallow breathing. You probably got about 2 minutes before you blow up completely. But we want to try to put in motion mental and physical guardrails so that I don't habitually start to exhale through my mouth, or I don't habitually start to hyperventilate through my mouth. And breathing fast through the nose when you are, so like when you look at the old yoga systems, they have this Kapalabhati or this breath of fire where you would breathe really fast through your nose. Well, guess what? If you only do it 2 or 3 times, it's a breath of cooling. It ices the system. It gets all the toxins out. It super oxygenates your tissue. And then maybe you can get back to a steady nostril breath.
I love this, and I'm so excited that you're going to be working with my daughter's team. They are super psyched, and the coaches as well, and I can see why. Ed, this is fascinating, and you can bet that I will be breathing differently during my workout tomorrow morning. So thank you. Before we go, I just wanted to mention a couple things, that we are in a new era, as we all know, after the pandemic and exposures and all of that, and I have to be very careful with what I'm talking about. Just for the health of the lungs, if some of you are thinking to yourself, I'm not breathing as well as I used to, whether I was in control of my breath or I wasn't, it's because there's higher histamine intolerance throughout the world, more people than ever having allergies, food intolerances, and it's affecting the lungs. So you can use supplements like HistoHarmony. You can also nebulize with the acceleradine iodine. You can nebulize with another one of my supplements that I can't really speak about on this podcast, but you can definitely check out my website for those ideas. But nebulizing gets it down in there, and it really opens up the lungs. And then also using other supplements like magnesium to help with your sleep, and accelerated thyroid to help you wake up in the morning to get your systems going. But honestly, the biggest takeaways are free. And that is, you're in control of your breath. You're also in control of those first moments in your bed when you are in gratitude. You're manifesting what your day's going to be like. You're in a forgiveness mode. And that's probably one of the best things that you said today, Ed, and it's just such a no-brainer, but I love emphasizing it because it's so impactful. And then you will be amazed at how easy your breathing is when those things are in line, right? So that breath is your life. And we joke in our family that you're a breatharian. You don't even have to be eating food to get energy. And there's some truth to that.
Right.
With the sun and your breath, that's what gives your cells the energy it needs to function. Yes, eventually you do need to eat and you need to drink some water, but your breath, you can't live without breathing. You can live for quite a while without eating, but you can't live for very long without breathing. And when you breathe properly, that's when life really goes to the next level. So thank you so much, Ed. Where can people find you and how can they work with you?
They can reach me at my website, www.edharrold.com, or you can go to www.gobegreat. You can get me there. There's all sorts of trainings and ability to work with me. If you wanted to do 10 private sessions with me, things that would be suited directly for what you require in your life, you can just go to the website, go to that page, and it's 20% off if you type in the code partner. So 20% off, 10 private sessions with me. After that, your life will never, ever be the same. And for professionals out there, my Breath is Medicine course, my 25-hour course, it's continuing education for therapists and athletic trainers and nurses. It's 20% off if you click on the word stream.
Stream. Got it. Well, thank you again. Some priceless information we went over today. So thank you, Ed. And thank you, everyone else, for joining us today. Our discussion does not have to stop here. If you're feeling lost in the supplement world, I'm here to help. You can start by getting your free supplement protocol. Just head to SaraBantaHealth.com, complete the form, and I will personally put together a protocol just for you. Follow me on social media at Accelerated Health Products. Join the free group coaching on Telegram. I answer your questions. I post insights and keep you moving forward each and every day. The link is at SaraBantaHealth.com. You can listen to this podcast and all of my podcasts at Accelerated Health with Sara Banta on Spotify, E360, Apple, iHeartRadio, of course, YouTube, and over 100 different platforms. Shop on the website. Try any of the supplements we mentioned today, and you can use coupon podcast10 to get 10% off site-wide. Remember, I'm live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so join me next time for more ways to unlock your health potential.